Decades ago, car manufacturers cared about making quality and durable products. It was a matter of pride when their brand was associated with reliability. They made simple, good products that were not going to make you struggle at all. Today, the only thing that matters to them is how much more they can get out of the consumer. The old cars from the 90s lasted 300,000 miles without drama. Today, you are lucky if you reach 150,000. This is not a conspiracy. These are real data of how the industry changed radically. Today, we are going to talk about the 15 reasons why modern cars do not last 20 years like before. Get ready, because the truth is uncomfortable. Let us go. Reason 15. Plastics replaced metals in critical engine components. Plastics have replaced metals in critical engine components. Before, water intakes and thermostat housings were made of cast aluminum with a simple cardboard gasket. They lasted decades and never failed. Today, water intakes are made of plastic in direct contact with metal, heating and cooling constantly. Plastic hates being bolted to metal and hates extreme thermal cycles even more. The result is that these parts break prematurely as soon as you touch them wrong during maintenance. Personal example. On a Jeep, when changing a radiator hose, as soon as I brought the pliers close to remove the clamp and started to apply a little pressure, the water intake exploded into pieces before you could change a cardboard gasket for €2 in 5 minutes. Today, you have to replace the entire plastic intake for €80 with 2 hours of work. Reason 14. Smaller turbocharged engines. Smaller turbocharged engines have replaced large, naturally aspirated engines. Downsizing is the industry trend, reducing engine size and adding a turbo to maintain power. A 4-cylinder 1.5-litre turbo engine replaces a 6-cylinder 3-litre naturally aspirated engine. On paper, the power is similar. In reality, the stress on the engine is completely different. A small turbo engine works much harder to generate the same power. The turbo generates extreme heat and extremely high pressures on internal components. Combustion temperatures are higher, cylinder pressure is greater, and wear is accelerated. Turbos typically fail between 100,000 and 150,000 kilometers. The replacement costs between €2,000 and €3,000. Naturally aspirated engines easily lasted 300,000 miles with basic maintenance. The typical customer bought an efficient car with a 4-cylinder turbo and ended up with an engine replacement at 120,000 kilometers. Downsizing saves fuel but destroys longevity. Reason 13. Continuously variable CVT transmissions. Continuously variable CVT transmissions have replaced conventional automatics. The CVT promises efficiency and smoothness. The reality is that it is a reliability nightmare. The Nissan Jatco CVT is infamous for premature failures between 60,000 and 100,000 kilometers. The internal metal belt slips, overheats, and breaks. Replacing a CVT transmission costs between €4,000 and €600. Conventional 5- or 6-speed automatic transmissions lasted 200,000 miles with regular fluid maintenance. The CVT needs specific fluid, frequent changes, and suffers from overheating in normal operation. Manufacturers adopted the CVT because of fuel efficiency pressure and government regulations. The CVT is lighter and more efficient on paper, but sacrifices durability and robustness completely. Dual-clutch DCT transmissions are also problematic. Volkswagen and Ford have documented issues. The typical customer bought an efficient sedan with a CVT and ended up with a dead transmission just after the warranty expired with a devastating bill. Modern transmissions are efficient but fragile. Reason 12. Extended maintenance intervals. Extended maintenance intervals from manufacturers reduce ownership costs on paper, but in reality, compromise longevity. Before, the oil change was every 5,000 kilometers. Now manufacturers say every 15,000 or 20,000 kilometers. Modern oil is better, yes, but modern engines are more demanding with turbos and direct injection. The oil at 20,000 kilometers is degraded, dirty, and has lost its lubricating properties. The engine works harder, generates more heat, more pressure, and the old oil does not protect adequately. Manufacturers extend intervals to reduce maintenance costs during the warranty and make ownership seem cheaper. After the warranty expires, the engine has suffered accelerated wear from the degraded oil. Cabin air filters last 15,000 kilometers when before they were every year. Transmission fluid is sealed for life when before it was a change every 60,000 kilometers. Useful life means warranty life, not vehicle life. Owners follow manufacturer intervals religiously, and the engine and transmission fail prematurely at 150,000 kilometers. Before, with frequent maintenance, engines lasted 300,000 miles. Today, with extended maintenance, engines barely reach 200,000. The typical customer trusted the manufacturer intervals and ended up with an engine requiring reconstruction with costs greater than the savings on maintenance. Extended maintenance is a trap for longevity. Reason 11. GDI gasoline direct injection. GDI gasoline direct injection generates carbon buildup on intake valves. Port injection cleaned the valves constantly because gasoline flowed over them. GDI injects fuel directly into the cylinder, so the intake valves never receive gasoline. Oil and crankcase vapors are recirculated into the intake system and deposited on the valves. Without gasoline to wash the deposits, carbon builds up on the valves in thick layers. Carbon buildup reduces airflow, causes loss of power, increased fuel consumption, and irregular idle. Valve cleaning is a procedure called walnut blasting, where crushed walnut shells are fired at the valves. It costs between 600 and 800 euros and is necessary every 50,000 or 80,000 kilometers. Port injection engines never had this problem. With GDI, everyone suffers. Manufacturers adopted GDI for efficiency and emissions, ignoring the maintenance problem. Some manufacturers add dual injection, port and direct, but this solution adds complexity and cost. The typical customer notices loss of power and irregular idle, discovers carbon buildup, and faces a repetitive cleaning bill. GDI is efficient but requires expensive and continuous maintenance. Reason 10. Complex electronics and computer modules. Complex electronics and computer modules have multiplied exponentially, creating points of failure. A car from the 90s had 5 or 10 basic electronic modules: engine, transmission, ABS. A modern car has between 50 and 100 modules controlling everything: lighting, seats, mirrors, climate control, infotainment. Each module is a potential failure point, both in software and hardware. Modules communicate through a CAN bus network. If one module fails, it affects others. Diagnosis is a nightmare that requires specific scanners, updated software, and trained technicians. Repairing a module costs between 300 and 2,000 euros depending on the system. Even worse, modules are discontinued years after the model, making it impossible to find replacements. A perfectly mechanically functional car becomes useless because the driver door module failed. Software updates are mandatory at the dealership at 100 or 200 euros per visit. Before, when a module failed, you replaced a fuse or relay for 5 euros and kept going. The typical customer has a 9-year-old car, the climate control module failed, the replacement is discontinued, and the car is economically totaled. Modern electronics are convenience, but also extreme vulnerability. Reason 9. Complex emission control systems. Complex and fragile emission control systems add layers of failure. The EGR exhaust gas recirculation becomes clogged, carbonized, and fails. The DPF, diesel particulate filter, requires constant regenerations, suffers blockages, and needs expensive replacements. Oxygen and NOx sensors fail frequently at 200 or 400 euros each. Multiple catalytic converters fail and cost between 2,000 and 4,000 euros to replace. The PCV valve of the crankcase ventilation system fails and causes oil leaks and pressure. The secondary air pump for air injection fails at 600 euros. The EVAP fuel vapor system detects leaks with hypersensitive sensors. The car enters safety mode, limp mode, with reduced power if any emission sensor fails. Before, the emission system was simple: a catalytic converter and an oxygen sensor that lasted the life of the vehicle. Today, the emission system has a dozen components, and any that fail turns on the check engine light and makes the car almost unmanageable. Emission regulations are stricter, systems are more complex and more fragile. The typical customer has the check engine light on constant, sensor after sensor, valve after valve, with thousands of euros in repairs. Modern emission control is necessary for the environment, but is a reliability nightmare. Reason 8. Supposedly, maintenance-free timing chains. Timing chains have replaced belts, supposedly maintenance-free, but the reality is that they fail catastrophically. Manufacturers promote timing chains as having a maintenance-free, useful life. The reality is that chains stretch, tensioners fail, and plastic guides break. A stretched chain skips teeth, causing catastrophic damage in an interference engine where valves and pistons meet. Preventive replacement of the timing chain costs between 1,500 and 3,000 euros. Catastrophic failure requires a complete engine reconstruction of 8,000 to 15,000 euros. The BMW N63, the GM LFX and the Volkswagen EA 888 have timing chains infamous for premature failures. Timing belts before required replacement at 100,000 kilometers, but it was predictable and programmable. Belt breakage was programmed and the engine was protected with a non-interference or limited damage design. The chain fails unpredictably without warning and with guaranteed total damage. Manufacturers saved by eliminating programmed belt maintenance but created a time bomb with the chain. Worse still, many modern engines have the chain at the back of the engine, which requires removing the complete engine to access. The typical customer trusted the maintenance-free chain. It failed at 120,000 kilometers, the engine was destroyed, and the reconstruction build was complete. Timing chains are marketed as an advantage, but in reality, they are a reliability disaster. We reach the middle of the list of the 15 reasons why cars no longer last 20 years. The next 7 include fatal design decisions, regulatory pressure, and unnecessary technology madness. We are going to talk about systems that worked perfectly and are now complex, designs that sacrifice durability for efficiency on paper. Number 1 will surprise you. We continue. Reason 7. Automatic start-stop system. The automatic start-stop system that turns off the engine at traffic lights wears out the starter and battery prematurely. The system is designed to save fuel and reduce emissions at idle. The engine turns off at every traffic light or parking spot and starts again when moving the foot from the brake. The starter was originally designed for cold starts, 5 or 10 daily starts. Start-stop generates between 50 and 100 daily starts. The starter is reinforced, yes, but the wear is exponentially greater. The special AGM battery for start-stop costs between 250 and 400 euros to replace. A conventional battery costs between 80 and 100 euros. The AGM battery lasts between 3 and 4 years, when before it lasted between 5 and 7. The starter fails and costs between 400 and 600 euros to replace. Starting the engine when hot is different from a cold start in terms of component lubrication. Cylinder, piston, and ring wear accelerates with frequent hot starts. Manufacturers admit that the system saves between 3 and 5% of fuel in real city use. Fuel savings are minimal, the maintenance cost is higher, and longevity is compromised. Reason 6. Sealed for life, coolant and transmission. Sealed for life coolant and sealed for life transmission are manufacturer decisions that reduce longevity. Manufacturers eliminated drain plugs and access for fluid maintenance. The automatic transmission before had a drain plug, and the fluid change was simple every 60,000 kilometers. Today, transmissions are sealed without a dipstick and without a drain plug. The manufacturer says the fluid is for a useful life, but the reality is that it means warranty life, 100 or 150,000 kilometers. If the transmission runs 200,000 or 300,000 kilometers, the fluid is degraded after years. Changing fluid in a sealed transmission requires special pumps and adapters at 200 or 300 euros. Many shops do not offer the service because of the complexity. Engine coolant before required change every 2 years with conventional antifreeze. Today, coolant is long-lasting, 10 years, but systems are more complex with EGR, turbo coolers and intercoolers. Degraded coolant after 10 years causes blockages and corrosion in the complex system. Cleaning the cooling system costs between 600 and 1,000 euros. The differential is sealed without a drain plug and with lifelong oil. Differential oil changed regularly lasted the life of the vehicle. Sealed, it fails at 150,000 kilometers and the reconstruction costs 3,000 euros. Manufacturers eliminated maintenance to reduce costs during the warranty, but destroyed post-warranty longevity. The typical customer followed the sealed useful life and the transmission and differential failed at 160,000 kilometers out of warranty. Sealed fluids are misleading marketing that destroys longevity. Reason 5. Sealed LED headlights in complete unit. LED headlights are sealed in the complete unit. If they fail, the replacement costs between 1,000 and 3,000 euros. Halogen headlights before used a 10 euro bulb that the owner could change in 5 minutes. LEDs are more efficient and durable, but they are sealed in the complete headlight unit. If the LED fails due to humidity, corrosion, or the electronic controller, the replacement is of the complete unit at 1,500 or 3,000 euros. Rotating LED matrix adaptive headlights are very high technology, but also very high cost when they fail. The customer pays for premium technology, and when the headlight fails, the bill is devastating. LED taillights are also sealed in a complete unit at 500 or 1,500 euros. Before, a rear bulb cost 3 euros. Today, the complete unit. Electric window regulators have motors that fail at 300 or 500 euros per window. Before, a manual crank never failed and had zero maintenance. Electric mirrors with heating, memory, and 11 directions have motors that fail at 400 euros. Before, a manual mirror with simple adjustment never failed. Electric seats with memory, heating, ventilation, and massage have motors that fail at 600 or 1,000 euros. Before, a manual seat with lever adjustment never failed. Reason 4. Impossible design to repair or service. The design impossible to repair or service by the average owner creates dependence on the dealership. The modern hood has plastic covers that hide the engine completely, making it impossible to identify components. The battery is hidden under the seat, in the trunk, or under the spare wheel, which requires dismantling the complete interior. The cabin air filter requires dismantling the glove box and the complete dashboard in 2 hours of work. The spark plugs in a transverse V6 engine require dismantling the intake manifold and special coils in 4 hours of work. Before, the spark plugs were accessible and the change was 30 minutes by the owner. The headlights require dismantling the bumper and the complete fascia to access the bulbs. The alternator is under the engine and requires lifting the engine from its mounts and dismantling half the transmission. The oil change requires dismantling plastic covers and protection trays with 20 screws. Special proprietary tools, diagnostic scanners, and update software are needed. Reason 3. Emission and efficiency regulations. Government emission and fuel efficiency regulations forced compromises in durability. Manufacturers are forced to meet CAFE standards, corporate average fuel economy. The standards demand that the average fleet reaches 50 miles per gallon by 2030. Manufacturers are forced to reduce weight with small turbo engines and complex transmissions. Weight reduction means plastic, aluminum, and magnesium instead of steel. Aluminum is light but suffers from electrolytic corrosion in contact with steel and galvanic problems. Magnesium is super light but fragile and corrodes quickly. The aluminum unibody of the Ford F-150 has corrosion, problems, and repair with specialized welding. 3-cylinder 1-liter turbo engines like the Ford EcoBoost have overheating and premature failures. To meet regulations, manufacturers sacrificed durability and robustness. Stricter NOx emissions generated the Volkswagen Dieselgate. VW installed cheat software to pass emissions tests. The alternative to complying legitimately is adding complex, fragile, and expensive emission control systems. The diesel particulate filter requires constant regenerations and suffers from blockages and failures. The SCR AdBlue urea injection system has additional components that fail. There are multiple catalysts, sensors, and dozens of components. Complying with emissions generated complexity and vulnerability. Reason 2. The modern consumer prioritizes technology over durability. The modern consumer prioritizes technology, design, and price over durability and reliability. The consumer buys a car based on the big screen, the 0 to 100 in seconds, and the exterior design. Nobody asks about the timing chain, the access for maintenance, or the long-term reliability reputation. A purchase comparison. The consumer looks at the Toyota Land Cruiser versus the Ford Expedition. The Land Cruiser is designed for robustness, durability, and simplicity of maintenance. The Expedition is designed for technology, luxury, screens, and massage seats. A 2005 Land Cruiser is worth between 15 and 20,000 euros in the used market. A 2005 Expedition is worth between 3 and 5,000 euros. The difference is that the Land Cruiser does not give trouble and lasts 500,000 miles. The Expedition has the transmission that fails, the air suspension that collapses, and the electronics that are a nightmare at 100,000 miles. The consumer pays the premium for the Land Cruiser because they prioritize durability. But the average consumer does not prioritize durability. They want new technology and pretty design. Manufacturers respond to consumer demand. Nobody would buy a 50,000 euro car with ugly design without screens or technology, but that lasts 30 years. Everyone buys the 50,000 car with beautiful design and impressive technology, but that lasts 10 years. Manufacturers have no incentive to make durable cars because the consumer does not pay for durability. Reason 1. The manufacturer business model depends on obsolescence. The manufacturer business model depends on obsolescence and new sales, not on the longevity of the products. The manufacturer is a company that needs constant profits to satisfy Wall Street shareholders. Profits come from the sales of new cars, not from cars lasting 30 years. If the manufacturer makes a car that lasts 30 years, they sell one car per customer every 30 years. If the manufacturer makes a car that lasts 10 years, they sell 3 cars to the same customer in 30 years. They are triple the profits from the same customer thanks to programmed obsolescence. Manufacturers calculate exactly the sweet spot where the car lasts the warranty plus 5 years and then fails. The warranty is 3 to 5 years, so the car is designed to last 150,000 kilometers or 200,000 maximum. Afterwards, the failures require expensive repairs and the owner decides to buy a new one instead of repairing. An old car with 150,000 kilometers is worth €800 and the engine repair costs €6,000. The owner thinks it is better to put those €6,000 as a down payment for a new car. The manufacturer won because they sold another car. Dealerships also win with the service department and repair profits. The dealership earns more from the service department than from new car sales. There is an incentive to keep cars running at the minimum with constant and expensive repairs. The manufacturer and the dealer are aligned in the business model of obsolescence. Spare parts are discontinued 10 years after the model. If a car is 15 years old and a critical component fails, the part is discontinued and the car is junk. The manufacturer could keep parts available for 30 years, but there is no financial incentive. Cars lasted 30 years before because the business model was different. Before, the manufacturer sold a car, obtained profit once, and kept the customer happy for decades. Today, the manufacturer needs to sell multiple cars to the same customer in their life. Wall Street demands constant growth quarter after quarter. Growth comes from new sales, not from keeping old cars running. The manufacturer is trapped in a capitalist system that demands infinite growth with finite planet resources. The solution for manufacturers is programmed obsolescence where products fail and replacement is necessary.